Fantastic. Well, we can get started. And we've been doing this for the last couple of weeks, but the sole focus is, and what I'll do is I'll throw this in the chat room right now. But how this conversation started was we wrote a blog about the 8 habits of an effective recruiter, and we interviewed multiple different recruiters in different industries, different levels, and figured out what specific habits do they need to be successful within their career, not just now, but these habits that will extend their career for years to come. Marvin was one of the individuals that we did interview, and he has a breath of fresh air knowledge of everything about recruiting. Marvin Booker is a seasoned professional in the recruiting industry with a diverse background and passion for community building. His journey in recruiting has seen him take on significant roles at Meta, Indeed.com, in the banking industry, and his approach to recruitment goes beyond more just job placement. He views it as a craft to be mastered and a community to be nurtured. He actively participates in recruiting communities, attends webinars, conferences, and continuously consumes industry information to stay ahead of the curve. Marvin Booker is a true friend of mine, and he inspires me because he leads by example, sharing his insights and experiences with the next generation of recruiters. And like I said, this is why we do this, is because we want to nurture the next generation of recruiters that are coming behind us. So today we're really focusing on finding human resources like mentors and communities. And that's I guess the fourth habit of an effective recruiter is figuring out who those mentors and communities are that can help you in your recruiting journey. So without further ado, I just want to say thank you, Marvin, for coming on. But can you share a little bit about your journey in the recruiting industry? Like how has your journey evolved through your career?
Yeah, definitely. Well, first of all, thanks for having me, Dan. Appreciate it. Thank you as well to Hire Easy for hosting these types of webinars and building this type of functional community. Right? As you mentioned, it's really, really important for me to continue to work with others across the globe within our industry. Yeah, so just kind of get things started. I began in talent acquisition, recruitment, and sourcing back in 2010. So rapidly approaching 14 years of experience in the industry. As of this December, I worked for a small exec search firm in Atlanta, Georgia for about 4 or 5 years. And then when my wife and I had children and we wanted to relocate closer to Michigan to be closer to family, we moved to the Detroit area. And that's when my foray into the sourcing and recruiting talent community as we know it kind of took off, attending various conferences like SourceCon and SRSC and meeting a ton of great people across the industry. And that I would say in the last 8 years is where I've made the most of my connections.
Awesome. You say connections. Can you share a little bit about your journey and how mentorship and community involvement have played a role in your career development? You mentioned, conferences like SourceCon and other avenues, but when was there a point in your career that you said, "Hey, I'm going to develop myself of getting outside the box and really embrace the community and your career development?"
Yeah, that's a great question, Dan. It really started in that first corporate recruitment job I took in 2015, 2016. We were growing the sourcing function from net scratch at the time. It was an ideation of my team lead to integrate sourcing into the talent acquisition lifecycle. And so, with that said, I was like the number 2 hire out of the eventual 7 hires on sourcing, and we had no information. We had zero data. We were starting from scratch, and so it really, really helped to actually be able to network and to connect with folks within the industry to learn how things were done. And I remember like the first act of kindness, I'll call it, the first outreach was done by Carrie Lynn, formerly McKinney. She was living in Michigan at the time and had driven down to downtown Detroit about an hour from her house just to connect with myself and my sourcing team to go over like Boolean logic and Boolean functions. Like we had no idea how to utilize Boolean operators or how to search outside of LinkedIn or even how to search effectively within our own ATS and CRMs. And so, kind of piggybacking or dovetailing from that side, that sort of concept, same thing happened at SourceCon. The Balaj Proje, I always say his last name wrong, so I apologize, Balaj. But he gave a talk at SourceCon in Dallas. I want to say it's like 2015, 2016. And we actually had a chance to kind of sit with him afterwards and just have our minds blown because we had no idea what we were doing at the time and how to recruit. So really, just, having that face-to-face time with people has probably been the most effective for me.
Awesome. Awesome. On your LinkedIn profile, in your about section, it says, I have always been curious by nature. As a young child, if I had a question about something, my mom would tell me to grab the closest encyclopedia, and maybe for the Gen Zers out there, they probably don't even know what that is, or dictionary to look it up, and then report back to her. From that time on, I have always enjoyed gathering information, learning trivia, and finding out about new things. Walk me through that approach of understanding kind of the landscape of this industry and your curiosity in trying to find mentors and trying to get connected within conferences, webinars, and finding maybe that mentor for your career.
Yeah, again, that's another great question, Dan. And that's kind of as it relates to having a curious mindset. There's just so much to know and to learn within our industry. And one thing that surprised me in a good way was how generous people are with their time and with their knowledge. Very, very rare, coming from an athletic background or a competitive sports background, very rare do teams kind of share film, kind of share tape and kind of share some of those secrets to success. But as has been said before, there is no secret sauce like this. There's so many great, intelligent people within our community that are open to sharing their ideas, and some just ask that you just give them credit, right? Maybe you allude back to who you talked to or where the conversation came from or where ideas were sparked. But however, there's a lot of great folks that are here to share. And again, I think that was kind of first, kind of showed to me by some individuals. One name that I'll mention was a gentleman by the name of Tim Sackett. He runs the Tim Sackett Project. He has a book called The Talent Fix, and also has a couple different blogs. And so with that said, I remember he drove over an hour from where he was in Michigan to meet me for lunch one day just to talk about like life and my career and like family and what I was planning to do next. And so really just having people sit down and take time to invest time with you is so valuable. And so really it's really important, I found at this point in time in my career, to start giving that time back. So working with other folks and to getting to know what their struggles are in their careers or where they are, challenges they're going through, and where I might be able to help them has been impactful.
Walk me through that situation with Tim. How did you approach getting connected with him? And maybe for the audience, what are some steps you would recommend they take to when they are identifying a mentor, whether it's at their company, outside of their company? And what is the approach of reaching out to these individuals, of getting connected with them?
Yeah. So my connection with Tim, I believe, started in Detroit with a local organization called the Detroit Recruiter Connection. So we got connected via LinkedIn, linked up, shared information. I'm not sure if Tim had spoken at one of those events, or if not, but basically it was the old LinkedIn. Hey, we're in market. Let's connect. Grab coffee, grab a beer, grab lunch sometime. And he made it real, right? And so I would say like the steps and the process as to how to do this is really just to show up to webinars and events like this, see who's responding in the comment box or in the chat, see who's being active within the community, and also take some time to just kind of put yourself out there. So when you're joining the Hire Easy community, for example, or if you're on a Facebook group or a LinkedIn group, ask questions and see who responds. I've never seen anyone not respond to a Q&A or to a question that's been asked, within a given group or forum. So just drop questions in there and see who responds. And like those that have responses, that are aligned to what you're looking for, or maybe along the lines, maybe confirming what you're looking at, or a different perspective, connect with those people, right? Take time to invest with them. And I would also say, look at people who work within your industry vertical, whether they're recruiting for healthcare or recruiting for technical jobs or what have you. Find folks who've been successful in those areas and work for companies that you want to work for, and try to ask them about their journey, the good, the bad, and the other, and the otherwise, and learn from them that way.
I always had success too of figuring out who was at that skip level of whatever organization I was at. And the leaders that I identified with that thought that we're doing a good job and I wanted to be like them and mirror them would try to get time on their calendar of saying, hey, can we do maybe a monthly sync just to get a different perspective versus your direct boss and kind of asking for that mentorship to get at that same level, but a different perspective versus just a hiring or a direct manager
Mhm.
and yourself relationship. I think that's super helpful as well of just trying to get broad perspectives
Mhm.
and
Exactly.
lessons that you can learn, but then also when that time does come, when promotion happens, typically you're going to need more than just your manager to be speak on your behalf in those
Exactly.
leadership meetings. So you need more than one person. So then that allows you to build a relationship with the other stakeholders that make that decision. Have you had any experience with that or recommendations that way?
Yeah, no, that's a man, it's a great point, Dan. I really like that. I really feel that building cross-functional relationships is the key to success in any organization. It helps to have an advocate. It helps to have a plus one. It helps to have your name, kind of being, thrown out in conversation. And it can be so hard for people sometimes, myself included, just to not so much toot your own horn, but to be aware of your skills and your capabilities. And so, really, I think it's really important that you're not just doing the work just to showcase what you can do. However, it's important to spend time to build relationships with people that work adjacent to your function, within your function, across your function. Glenn Cathy had talked about this as well too, when it came to doing implicit search. So when you're looking for a software engineer, or let's say you're looking for someone in DevOps, it's implied that they may have relationships, other folks within the software development life cycle. So kind of the same way, like it's going to be implied that you should know people and in cross functional roles within your organization. And working for a large organization like Meta, there were 3,200 of us, 3,400 of us at the time, and about 500 people in sourcing is by far the largest sourcing organization I ever worked for. It really, really helped to have strong relationships with both your peers, some of your skip levels, and even your skip levels leaders, in order to kind of build those bridges of rapport.
I think also a tip if somebody's starting a new job, the best advice I can give them is play the hey, I'm new card and start putting
Yes,
calendar invites on those skip level managers, those cross-functional partners of saying, hey, I'm new. I want to understand what your business is doing. So if I'm ever supporting you now or in the future, I want to understand a little more about you. And then you have a head of the game. So maybe a couple weeks later, you actually have a rec with that specific hiring manager or that leader in that specific org that you're supporting and it's a familiar face. Oh, yeah, Dan
exactly.
reached out to me when I first started and build a little rapport from that.
Yeah, even so, it could also just give you more context as to how things work, right? The inner workings of an organization.
For
I
sure.
think it's been estimated it takes anywhere between 200 to 250 days to onboard effectively and kind of learn how a job works the first 6 months. So play that new card. I think for the first 6 months to a year, I'm new.
For sure.
Yeah.
But let's face it, I mean, it's pretty scary to do this and getting outside the box of your comfort zone of asking individuals for advice because maybe we sometimes feel like we want to know everything or we need to know everything and not have the misconceptions of, well, why are you asking for more help? We hired you for a reason.
Mhm.
And that psychological size going into meetings and stuff like that, being vulnerable of asking the right questions of getting developed is sometimes scary. I know in this blog you mentioned and referencing researcher and motivational speaker Bren Brown, the concept of FFTs.
Mhm.
Um, Walk me through that and your experience with imposter syndrome
Mhm.
and the fear of doing something for the first time.
Yeah, definitely. Yes, Brene Brown is. I'm a big fan of hers. She actually spoke at a LinkedIn Talent Connect that I attended live in Nashville years ago. And that's when I picked up one of her books on the way back from the airport, and she talked about vulnerability, right? So I think it takes a little bit of vulnerability and humility in order to ask questions and realize you don't know everything. Some of the best advice I received early on from a gentleman by the name of Tim Barton, who founded the exec search firm that I worked for, was that you know what you know and you don't what you don't. Right? Don't try to pretend otherwise. Some folks say, if you can't be a duck, be a decoy. Just kind of play along or fake it till you make it. That can only get you so far. But I think if you're truly interested in gathering knowledge, gathering information, and not just looking at the cliff notes or a cheat sheet to in order to succeed, you really have to be intentional about the conversations that you have. Not be afraid to ask the questions. I don't want to say stupid or dumb questions because they're just questions.
For sure.
And the reality is, a lot of folks probably still, a lot of folks probably have the same concerns that you do, or may want to ask the question, but they may be too afraid to do so, right? So even if you feel like you're being an imposter, or you haven't earned this, you haven't done this, as Brene says, when you're a freaking first timer, you have to give yourself grace. Like everyone had to be the first to do something, right? Everyone to be the first to get through this role, and in doing so, you may expose parts of the onboarding process that might need improvement that could help someone else down the road, right? Maybe you weren't given all the information or details that you needed, or maybe as we say in tech all the time, you're building the plane as you fly it. Right? There's a lot of ambiguity, a lot of details. Maybe you can start to build out some information or some processes in place that can help other people along the road, or help folks to get ramped up more quickly. Um, so I really think it takes some time to learn how to develop that muscle, to learn to be vulnerable, and learn to be humble, and understand, like, truly come from the mindset, the perspective of seeking information and seeking to understand and seeking to learn, versus feeling exposed like you should know that, and you can always allude to it, like, hey, this might be something that should have been covered in my role, but coming from this organization, I'm playing the new card, like Dan said. I'm still relatively new, or still adapting to this new change. What does this mean, or what is the end goal of this process, or these changes, X, Y, and Z?
All right, so that's all well and good. Maybe mentorship, awesome. But what qualities should one look for in a mentor? And how do you define that? Like, what are some key qualities that you should look for in a mentor within recruiting or sourcing?
Yeah, I think it helps to find people that are open, right? So again, folks that are contributing to the community. Also to find someone who's honest, someone who's going to take some time to call you out when you may not, you may not be looking at a situation or a scenario from a full 360 degrees. So I think finding someone with honesty, integrity, someone who is open to sharing, caring. Those are all just like great things. I was going to mention, Steve Levy, working with this community. How many times have I seen him during webinars give out his personal cell phone number and ask for people to call him directly? Like, he's putting his money where his mouth is. The same with Dean DaCosta, sitting down with him, playing with new tools and exploring the resources. Brian Fink, another great person as well, too. Like, just for example, I saw a quick snippet that he had done years back on sourcing via Twitter, before it was X. I just had some questions about how to do that, or what his thought process was, and literally just grabbing a chat via LinkedIn, just connecting from there, and then building up a relationship, grabbing a phone number, getting on a Zoom call, a Teams meeting, whatever that might be, and just kind of going from there. That's kind of how it happened with me, with my mentor, Maisha Cannon. Maisha and I had met, at LinkedIn Talent Connect in Vegas. We connected online, and we connected again at SourceCon, and like I've been working with her over the last 5-6 years of my career, and just it's unbelievable how many great people you can find in this industry just to work with you.
In every single situation that you explained just now, it wasn't just that one, hey, can we meet, or a message on LinkedIn. In every situation that you just talked about, it was multiple times, multiple touch points, eventually in person or a Zoom call or something other than a message back and forth. What do you think that impact has been on your career with that multiple touch approach with these individuals?
Yeah, so I think you have to be intentional, right? Have some intentionality about it and be open and honest and direct about what you're looking to gain from the relationship, right? What you're looking to understand. It might just be a quick, hey, can I just ping you if I have an issue or a problem, or like, are you open to and willing to sit down with me and kind of help me solve some things? Like people aren't going to do your job for you. However, they're willing to help. They're willing to listen and to help you analyze and kind of poke holes, or where you might be blind to some potential pitfalls, if you will. So, with that said, I really think it helps to be intentional. How many outreaches does it take to get to the ideal candidate? Right? What's your what's your outreach sequence, and what's your approach to that? If you send one email, phone call, text, and just give up months later, no, like you're gonna more than likely send 3 to 4 touch points. Some people 7 to 9 touch points, right, in a certain amount of time. And it's okay to if someone says no, that's all right. Not everyone's gonna have time. Not everyone's gonna have the bandwidth or flexibility or even the skill set you're looking for, and that's okay if they say, hey, I'm not the right person. But you never know who they might be connected to, and say, hey, Dan, like I'm not the right person for this. However, reach out to the so and so, and they might be able to help you.
So, how do you handle situations where you reach out for mentorship or advice and don't get that positive response? Like, any tips for staying resilient and motivated within those situations?
Yeah, don't take it personal, right? It's not a personal issue. Big fan of Bob Dylan, and when he quotes, everyone that you meet is going through something serious, right? We all live life. We all live life outside of our jobs and our career, and we have things going on and people that are important to us that we need to connect with, and our time is finite. So it's okay if someone's not open or available or able to connect with you. However, there are so many people. Again, this is from a global perspective, that you can reach out to, and it's really just a matter of kind of just getting yourself out there. If you put yourself out there, someone's going to reach out and connect back.
What trends do you see in the future of recruiting communities, mentorships? Like, how can recruiters stay ahead and make the most out of these evolving resources? Feel like there's more of an impact on in-person conferences or meetups locally,
Mhm.
recruiting chapters. It seems like there's a buzz that is on the rise. What are the trends you're seeing, and what's the future of recruiting communities look like?
Yeah, I love that we're getting back to in-person events, right? I think again, there's twofold things where they're good. There again, it allows you to just kind of meet people in space. You get dimension, right? You get to know somebody or share you have shared experience together. Whether it would be in a certain city or locale, or at your office or community, things like that. However, on the opposite side of the spectrum, the virtual side of things, these virtual connects allows you to work asynchronously and meet people across the globe, right? And across different time zones. Or, here in the US, we have 6 time zones. So it gives you an opportunity, more access to people where you can kind of communicate asynchronously, especially within, like I said, the higher user community. And you can get questions answered, in real time. Um, as well as connect with people you may not have the ability to connect with, just due to your lack of ability to travel or time or money or whatever the function, whatever the issue may be.
The best is where I connect with somebody virtually, maybe on LinkedIn or something like that, and then I know that we're going to the same conference. For example, you could join RecruitCon, that's 100% absolutely free on August 20th through the 22nd. The next month is RecFest. A lot of those same speakers, a lot of those same people that are attending the Hire Easy RecruitCon will be at RecFest, so then I can see them in person. And I'm super excited to just give people hugs and kind of hang out with them because I already have some sort of a virtual relationship with them, but now I get
Exactly.
to see them in person and live, and it's going to be super super impactful for my career, of just bridging that gap and building a relationship that extends more than just like a handshake and a LinkedIn social media like. Um, do you have any stories or experiences where you talk about like the ripple effect of helping others? Can you share a story that a mentorship or a community involvement has led to a positive ripple effect in your career or the careers of others?
Yeah, definitely. A great example of this is during 2020, I experienced a layoff, and I was in between jobs at the time and having a really, really hard time just trying to find remote opportunities. I was living outside of Detroit, and the world was changing rapidly. However, some folks that I had worked with at a prior employer had reached out and connected, and they were their spouse had worked for a company that I wanted to interview with. And so, just by making that connection, picking up the phone, connecting with someone that you worked with prior to, I was able to get an interview from there. I've seen that happen so often, especially in today's world, in our our current economy, or the recruiting industry at current. We all need an advocate. We all need a best friend who we can call, who knows a hiring manager, who knows another recruiter, who can get you an introduction, who can vouch for the work that you've done, or at least get your resume in front of someone. So really, I think reaching out to people that you've worked with in the past, and seeing who they know is very impactful.
How can people connect with you? What's the best way to get connected with you? And maybe you have some ideas or people that they can connect with if they are looking for that mentorship.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, so I'm on LinkedIn. My URL is just my first last name, Marvin Booker, LinkedIn.com. And then I would say for folks to connect with, I'm rocking a shirt from Sourcing IRL today from Greg Hawks. I got the Nerd Herd shirt on to Greg Hawks and Sarah Goldberg, were both two people that were instrumental in my development success. I just remember sitting on couches with them and nerding out with the keyboard, learning about new stuff. So Todd Davis has been phenomenal in my career as well too. But as I mentioned prior to, Steve Levy, the Dean DeCostas, the Brian Finks, folks like that, they have wide depth and breadth networks, amazing people to connect with. But also, I'm a big fan of Tangi Pettis and Maisha Cannon as well too. Katrina Collier has been great. Just amazing people in our industry overall.
Love it. Any last minute words of advice, anything else that you can share with us, Marvin, as we wrap up? And as we take maybe the last minute or two, if anybody has any questions, throw it in the chat, and Marvin can answer it about mentorships, communities, conferences, anything that connects us being humans and human recruiters is always the highlight of my job. So feel free to throw in the chat. We have about 1 or 2 more minutes, so want to answer any questions. But any last minute words of advice?
Yeah, no, I was gonna say, don't be afraid to connect and pay it forward, right? There's a lot of phenomenal people that have worked in this industry, and I couldn't have gotten as far as I've gotten in my career without those folks. It truly does take a village.
Do you have any stories about paying it forward? And what does that mean to you of paying it forward without expecting anything back in return?
Yeah, so definitely always trying to be mindful of checking my inbox, whether it be on LinkedIn or via email. People reach out to me. I don't always get back to messages rapidly. So what I'll try to do is try to be open and honest and say, hey, look, you got buried in my inbox. It's been a few weeks, few months. Let's connect. Let's be intentional about setting up some time. Just let people know that I'm here to help or here to be a resource if I'm able to assist.
Rhonda said, "What did your shirt say again?"
It says sourcing IRL, sourcing in real life, the Nerd Herd. It's a YouTube channel by Greg Hawks.
Love it. Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I just want to say thank you so much, Marvin, for attending, sharing your book of knowledge on this. Like I said, get connected with the Hire Easy community, the academy, and don't forget to sign up for the RecruitCon August 20th through the 22nd. So feel free to share that. There's more to come on our social medias. Share that, get the word out, because it is 100% free, and it's invaluable information for the recruiting community. So thanks again, everybody. We will be back again with another habit next Tuesday at 12 p.m. Central Time. Thanks again.
Thanks, Dan. Thanks, everyone.